What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the October 11th, 2021 edition of Raw Talk. Once again hosted by Jackie Redmond, the newest addition to the show, alongside Matt Camp. They recap the ending to the show that saw Drew McIntyre and Big E brawl during their main event match against the Usos and Untitled. I think it ended with McIntyre standing tall, if I remember correctly. They also recap the women's tag team match, which the transition there was terrible because both matches were exactly the same and like the feuding partners, and you don't know if they can get along. And then it ended in no contest. The main event ended in a in a count-out win for the Usos. The women's tag team match had trouble getting started at first, and then when it did, it was over in 5 minutes due to a no contest due to the partners brawling with each other. So they had very similar finishes, and they probably shouldn't have recapped that stuff back-to-back. They talk about the tension between all four women heading into Crown Jewel and the triple threat for the SmackDown Women's Championship between Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, and Sasha Banks. They also recap Mustafa Ali attacking Mansoor backstage on the show following their loss to Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin earlier on in the evening. And we hear from Mustafa Ali here on Raw Talk, and he says that he should be judged not for his actions, but rather for the intention behind his actions. He has always said what his intentions behind teaming with Mansoor were, in that he wanted to get him on the right track. He wanted to get him back to his winning ways. He wanted to mentor him. He wanted to do this and that. He tried to save Mansoor, he says. And it didn't work, so now he has no other choice but to kind of beat respect into him when he goes one-on-one with Mansoor at Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. You had to know this was coming as soon as the attack happened on Raw this week. I don't think they've been teasing tension lately. I know they've lost the matches, and I know they've never exactly been on the same page. But I thought at least, they would work through it as they have and whatever. But I guess the end game here was always to do a one-on-one. And maybe they could always go back to teaming. That's entirely possible. But it seems the end game with this angle was always to build to a one-on-one match at Crown Jewel. Because Mansoor has always been at these Crown Jewel Super Showdown shows. I mean, you go back to Super Showdown 2019. He won that Battle Royal, the biggest Battle Royal in WWE history. He was signed to the first ever Super Showdown show now, it wasn't Super Showdown, but it was the Greatest Royal Rumble back in 2018. That was where he was offered a WWE contract in Saudi Arabia. He won the biggest Battle Royal ever of all time at Super Showdown 2019. Crown Jewel 2019, I'm pretty sure he beat, was it Cesaro on that show? He beat Cesaro on that show. Super Showdown 2020 back in Saudi Arabia. He beat Dolph Ziggler right before Dolph faced Otis at WrestleMania. So he's been a part of every Crown Jewel and Super Showdown since mid-2019. I think the only Saudi Arabia show he was not a part of was Crown Jewel 2018. I think that's the only one that he wasn't on. So he's going to be maybe he was in another role I'm not familiar with, but he is going to be at Crown Jewel 2021 facing Mustafa Ali and very likely winning. And I like these guys. I like both. I mean, at least it's a logical match. I will give them that. For people saying, oh, who cares? Got to get Mansoor on the show. It's the obligatory Mansoor match in Saudi Arabia. Listen, I understand that, but at the same time, though, at least it has more of a build and it makes more sense than Mansoor versus Cesaro or Dolph a couple of years ago. The guy wasn't even on the fucking main roster at that point. He was barely on WWE TV. They would literally dust him off from NXT and put him in matches on these Saudi Arabia shows to appease the live crowd. And that's fine, but when you're not doing anything with this guy outside of that one night of the year, that's a problem. So at least he's been on TV lately. I like Mansoor a lot. I think he's great. So hopefully things go his way, and he will win very likely come Crown Jewel. And hopefully from there he can kind of build momentum over on the SmackDown brand. Here's hoping. And this kind of allows them to settle their score. Jackie and Matt can't discuss. They also talk about how tournaments are where people are making a name for themselves right now in the King of the Ring and Queen's Crown tournament, respectively. The Queen's Crown tournament, they literally have given these women no time. The Doudrop Natalya match from last night's Raw was the longest match of all the women's matches so far in the tournament, on a 3-hour and 2-hour show, respectively. That was the longest match they got, and it was 3 fucking minutes. If you add up all the time, it was around like 8 minutes or something, someone said on Twitter, of all 4 women's tournament matches so far, which is ridiculous. They talk about Doudrop versus Natalya, Doudrop picking up the victory. Camp is very intrigued to see what Doudrop will do in the next round of the tournament facing Shayna Basler, which was teased last week. We hear from Doudrop, and she says that there's no one like her in WWE right now. And that's why she wants to win this thing. She wants to do this for all the kids that are different, that thought they were too big, too small, too weird, too whatever. And she wants to show that being different can be good, and it can help you become a queen. And she does the whole yes queen and blah, 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 which was just terrible. She also did say, she's been preparing for this opportunity her whole life and going up against bullies, people like Shayna Basler. And I like Doudrop. I like Piper Niven a lot. The Doudrop character is complete garbage, I gotta tell you. The dancing and the music is just absolutely awful. She did vow to win the Queen's Crown, which again, I hope she doesn't. I hope it's Shayna Basler. I guess we'll find out in due time. But yeah, so that was the Queen's Crown update with Doudrop. And just the fact that she was talking about the whole, the yes queen, and I'm like, oh god, this is fucking unbearable. I don't know if she's putting that in herself or if they told her to say that, but it's just not good. Speaking of Shayna Baszler, Matt Camp and Jackie Redmond recap the Shayna Baszler versus Dana Brooke match on that same show from last night's Raw, where Baszler beat Brooke in a matter of a minute or so to advance to the next round in the Queen's Crown tournament. And they talk about how she's been on a path of destruction lately. And Matt Camp brings up all of Shayna's past accolades in being the NXT Women's Champion with a total amount of days as champ. She doesn't have the single longest reign, that would be Asuka, but between her 2 reigns as champion, she does have the most combined days as NXT Women's Champion. He also brings up, there was something else that he brought up, not her MMA background. It was that, and maybe the time she spent as tag team champion. It was like something else. Maybe the fact that she won the Elimination Chamber by eliminating everyone. I don't know. It was something along those lines. But he brought up her accolades and, the Mae Young Classic. The Mae Young Classic. Because that's very similar to this. I mean, that obviously had a lot more women. That was a much better tournament. I digress. But the Mae Young Classic 4 years ago, the inaugural one, Shayna was a part of that. That's actually how she got signed. She may have already been signed prior to that point, if I'm not mistaken. But she made it all the way to the finals against Kairi Sane, where she lost to Kairi in the finals of the Mae Young Classic. So she has tournament experience in WWE. So anyway, Matt and Jackie talk about how Shayna can submit anyone, and how hopefully in this next match it's going to be no exception when she goes up against Doudrop in what they call a very intriguing semifinals match. They also move on to the King of the Ring and talk about how winning King of the Ring for Xavier Woods would mean everything to this man. It would mean everything. I know he's made it very well known on his Twitter and on YouTube and just in general in interviews that he really fucking wants to win King of the Ring. But WWE has never incorporated that into a storyline ever. Ever. So I'm glad they're actually incorporating that into his character now. It would be nice to hear from him on the show itself, on Raw or on SmackDown. But not only did he get put in the tournament, he actually advanced on Monday, shockingly enough, by beating Ricochet. I was not expecting that. I do not expect him to make it past the next round when he very likely loses to Jinder Mahal. But at least he's in it, and at least he got to pass the first round. He's not going to win the whole thing. I doubt he's going to be Jinder, but I guess anything can happen, right? Anything can happen. So, anyway, they also replay the women's tag team match that I discussed earlier, discussed the Crown Jewel triple threat match for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and Camp feels that Belair needs it the most. He feels that Belair needs this win of the pay-per-view more than anyone, having lost to Becky Lynch, at SummerSlam in 26 seconds or whatever it was, having something to prove against Sasha Banks, who she already beat at WrestleMania, but she has the most to prove in this match. They recap the aforementioned Ricochet versus Xavier Woods match and Kofi Kingston against Jinder Mahal that saw Woods and Mahal advance respectively. And we got to hear from New Day where they talk about King of the Ring and how much it means to Xavier, and Kofi fell short, but Xavier's dream is still alive to become the next King of the Ring for WWE. And he just wants someone to fight for him. He just wants to go in there and really just win this whole thing. And he's been wanting to do this for a long time now. Like I said, he's made it very, very fucking clear over the years that he wants to win King of the Ring. And he has his opportunity right now in this tournament. So he's looking forward to that. Matt Camp says that Woods is ready, and I think that's an understatement. And they also preview Friday's SmackDown that will see the next round in the King of the Ring and Queen's Crown tournaments, with Carmella taking on Zelina Vega and Finn Balor facing Sami Zayn. The semifinals on the Raw side of the bracket will happen next Monday on Raw. So that was the October 11, 2021 edition of Raw Talk. The Xavier Woods stuff was great. I love that. Doudrop's promo was fine. Mustafa Ali set up the match for Crown Jewel. So it was a semi-newsworthy edition of Raw Talk here, with a match announcement made for Crown Jewel next week. So And then not a bad episode, not a great episode, but the announcement made it newsworthy, made it somewhat eventful, more eventful than usual, I'll say. And then the Xavier Woods promo was also great. I really, really enjoyed that. And I thought, him wanting to win King of the Ring is like the best story in WWE right now, as sad as that sounds. And I really want him to win the whole thing. He won't even make it past the next round, I'm sure. I mean, I was one of the people that said that he wouldn't be put in it, but he got put in it and he won on Monday. So we'll see how far he actually makes it. But I love this, though. I fucking love it. Hail King Woods, as a lot of other people would say. But nonetheless, guys, thank you for checking out my review of the October 11, 2021 edition of Raw Talk. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. More Raw Talk reviews every single Tuesday, Talking Smack reviews over the weekend, Dark Side of the Ring, Q&A videos, podcast excerpts, and so much more. So hit that bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.